Hello! It's alright, I hadn't noticed that the countdown timer had finished. I was just kind of gonna put a bit more glue to something because it will help it hold. Bear with me 1 second and I will show you what I'm doing. But I kind of want to glue it a bit more because, well, you'll understand in a minute. Let's put that down. So, today, I didn't do half the things I meant to. Hello, welcome to Everyday. And I get quite frustrated with myself when I do that. I did have a plan today, and I spent best part of, I don't know, 9 hours doing everything but the things I meant to do. So, I did, however, manage to sneak in a small amount of what I meant to do. So, here is, you'll recognise this. This is the test strip that we're going to make with a number of different options for decorations within it. This is not a full length strip, although it's quite long. This is 3/4 of the strip. The last quarter is here. It is not attached because I don't need it for my test strip. Now, I remeasured windows and did some checking and all the good things that involves. I am 100% confident that the length of all 4 strips exactly equals the amount that I require. What is not true is that the width of strip is okay. Now, there's not a lot in it. Basically, this is just over 3 inches, right? I think it works out as 7.5 centimetres or something. So if I do from there to there, so yeah, 7.5 centimetres, right? So, it doesn't take much imagination when I tell you that the width of the window is 43 centimetres, that, if I bring up my calculator for truly accurate answers, 43 divided by 7.5 is 5.7. Well, it doesn't work out as that actually, so that can't be right. You see, this is where my life always falls apart. I know that it's 43 or 17 inches wide. I can't have measured that entirely accurately. Let me try that again. No, 7.5. Oh no, it's not quite 7.5. It's like 7.6. You really won't think that it would make a lot of difference. 43 divided by 7.6. See, that still says 5.65. I worked out that I was basically 12 dots short, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's basically that. It's about an inch, right? So 0.6 times 5 is 38. 38, 41, 2, 3. So that gives me 4 centimetres, which is a little bit wider than I showed, but not a lot. But the short answer is I need to add a couple of centimetres to the starting strip and to the ending strip. But it will then be, because I do kind of want an odd number, really want to do 6 because then there's a line flat down the middle of the window. Now I could make the middle strip 4 centimetres wider, but I think that would look funny. I think if there was extra on the edge, it would look okay. I think that could go better than having a wider strip in the middle. And out of interest, 2, 4, 6, hang on, I need to count the dots, hang on. 2, 4, 6, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 42. So I need 84 bobbins. Isn't that depressing? And of course, as we know, I've made 30. So I've got quite a few more to make. And like everything that I seem to touch and do, which seems to be turning to shit at the moment, everything I do doesn't work out for insert whatever best reason unto itself. But if that's 30 odd bobbins, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 18, 22, 4, 6, 8, 9. Well, that doesn't add up. Probably one fallen off, a couple fallen off then. I could have sworn there were 32 bobbins or something. Anyway, probably had Doggety help if they have, because looking under this table here is really difficult because of where it is. It's kind of half over the couch, half under the couch. Hang on, let me slide on the floor and get my phone for a torch because there is zero light down here. I don't see anything down there. Just a little bit upsetting because I could have sworn I'd made more than that. Oh. I've got to get out of here without knocking everything and without sitting on the dog. There we go. Right. Could have sworn there were more than that. I'm really struggling with everything at the moment. Everything just seems to be pissing me off. I could have sworn I'd done more than that. Let's count them properly then. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 20. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 32. See, I knew I wasn't entirely insane. I had indeed done 32. And one of my glues has just come off. So let me fix this. See, look, glues come off. Right. Right, so tomorrow, I believe the best course of action is to make a crap ton of bobbins. So I will probably do that, irrelevant of how well or not we do today, because I really do want to now start winding bobbins and starting on this. The way it works, in case you haven't worked it out, is that this goes on the roller at the top like this, and you work around it and you just kind of chomp your way down. I haven't pricked it yet because that's a small ice age waiting to happen. And storing it is a little bit excitable. And here is the back where I printed it originally with the wrong page size. You can't see the end, of course you can't see the end, with the wrong page size. So two of them have got bits on the back, which makes it even more irritating because of course you've got to be careful when you pick it up that you're looking at the right side of it. And of course it's 9,000 degrees in here. So let me strip off a little bit. Because I'm getting hot and itchy already. The thing I was listening to packed in. I swear this guy does a very short lifespan. Duke, let's kill that. See if that will run. Yeah, that'll do. Right. So, we have turned the corner. My sore finger is less sore, but it split earlier, which of course means now it's real sore. We're going to need 1, 2, 3 initially. What we will do is, I did spot that there was a loose thread here yesterday. Spotted it in the photograph, of course. Not on the pillow, because, well, you know, that's just Murphy's Law. So, I know you can't see too well, but all I'm going to do initially is lengthen everybody slightly. These ones not so much, because by the time I get to them, I'll need them shorter again. But until then, let's make them a bit longer so that I can tuck them around the back. So you can go all the way over there, out the way. What did you do with your brother? Hmm? Where's Rory? No, I didn't ask for you to climb on me, Amy, because you're not Rory. Rory! There you are. Where were you? Were you having late night snacks? Hmm? Oh yeah. I think you were. If you want to come up, you can come up. Can't you, little man? Of course you can. Come on. There's room for you. Oh, we're going to do the whole I'm sad routine. I'm sad, said Rory. I'm sad and I need hugs. Oh, Rory, you are a silly. Aren't you? Hey, my silly. Hey, you are loved, as is your sister. Mm-hmm. I love my puppies. I do. I do. I do love my puppy dogs. Yes. Turn this down a bit. Let's turn down a bit more. There we go. There. I do love my puppies. That was a very disturbing thing in the news the last couple of days. I live in Gloucestershire, England, and a man in a tent, so arguably homeless, and his dog. Someone set his tent on fire with a dog in it. The dog allegedly is unharmed, but no one has seen said dog. So only the police have said that the dog is unharmed. So we're all trying to take some consolation in that. But I am pretty sure there is a long stream of people who wish to have words with whoever set light to that tent. First of all, because why? What harm was it doing you? Secondly, there was an animal in it, you donut. I don't want to be licked, little man. You can come up. You can come up. Or you can piss off. Those are your choices. Oh. Yeah. Absolutely shocking. That's a good boy. That someone would set a tent on fire for a homeless guy, his only possessions, and moreover his dog being in there. Now, it may be they didn't know the dog was in there. That doesn't make it any better. It's just very wrong that we live in a society where hurting others is everyone's first choice of action. run out of juice. We need to fill it up again then. So yes, I'm not quite sure how to do the strips. If I can, then I will print off. I need to, when I print off the real ones, I need to put, I need to make sure that the grey comes out grey, because it didn't, it came out black, which made joining them harder. So I need to print them in colour so that they come out in grayscale. Secondly, I need to maybe put lines across where the end of the first one will finish, so that I can make sure it's in a straight line and all of those kind of moments. Put lines on across the bottom, so I cut across the line and make sure it's all nice and straight. Secondly, I will then need to print out 2 lots. One for the middle 3 and one for the outer 2, so that I have the extra pairs on the outside. And I don't think it's a bad thing, because if you think of how the strip is, so if I pull it in fact, where is my magic cloth? In fact, my strips, my template's done a leap off the back. Hang on, let me grab that before something happens to it. It's easier said than done. So, if you look at the edge here, it wouldn't be too bad to have some form of more solid edge down the sides. You know, if this was effectively all 5, for example, if there was a edging down the edge that gave it a bit of strength looking, because obviously these are weak edges. I mean, they're not bad edges, but they are very stretchy, flexible edges. So having something with a bit more solidity to it wouldn't be a bad problem. But it is weird to think that that's only kind of one square off being a whole window. So yes, I do think that that is going to be a challenge. But I will have to add enough where are my scissors? I don't need anything like this much thread, but it's force of habit to wind on an absolute crap ton. In fact, let's definitely undo some of that, because, well, that really is far too much. Hello! I am too much, considering I only have 3/4 of a square to go. So let's not be pretending that I need like 28 metres of friggin' string on the end of it. So I'm just going to wind some back on my bobbin, on the original spoolage of choice. Just because, you know, let's be a bit more reasonable. I mean, so how are you? I had one of those days where everything I touch turns to poo. So spent 9 hours trying to do something, and it's just not having none of it. In short, I write games in Unity, and one of the memory saving options you can do is use things called addressables, which are effectively plugins. But they're not plugins as in you add features with it. They're well, you can, but they're more plugins as in you define that they're going to be there. So you put a level in it, for example, so that you only load that memory into memory when you need it. What with this, yeah. You can do strips, you can do anything. I mean, obviously the wider the strip, the less joins you have. But given that we've discovered a way of potential joins that is as good as near invisible as one could hope for, yeah, because you can make stuff. I mean, a net skirt would be a lace skirt would be a bit weird. You can certainly have an overskirt. Overskirts wouldn't be far-fetched. Lace, like anything, is a form of fabric. It's arguably no more. I mean, if you think of this, right, my favourite test swatch, right? I mean, other than it's violently see-through, so I would be very uncomfortable myself wearing it as clothing. But if you made strips and you finished them at an angle, you could make that into a shawl. You could do strips across or strips down, depending on how you fancied it. You could make bedspreads out of it. You can make anything you like. I mean, it's a bit frail in my mind. I mean, it's not frail. I mean, you can. It's not, it's not like tissue paper. It's not going to rip particularly. It's I think the best use of lace. No, you can make like a lace over thing for anything, to be honest. The amount of time and effort might not be one you're interested in, but because I mean, let's face it, you've seen how long it takes me to make not a lot. Now, okay, I'm not the fastest worker in the world, but I'm definitely not the slowest. So, I just kind of, I think it's difficult. I think there is a reason why they usually only use lace inserts or edgings, just because of the amount of time it takes to make it, and the arguable cost of doing so. But in principle, you could make a entirely kind of house coat type thing, or dressing gown out of it. You'd probably be shit scared to wear it, but you could. I do think some form of lace overskirt, or so you'd have like a... Bridal veils are a bit more realistic because, you know, people expect them to be, for want of a better word, neck curtainy. Speaking of neck curtainy, I ordered this. Now this looks a bit like a scrunched up pile of crap, really, I know it does. What you can't see is that it is, if I hold it up, you might be able to see that this bit is really kind of semi-transparent. It's a very fine mesh. Now, this is known as, she says, getting the exact wording of this shit because it's got a special name. Hang on. It is called, clicking on the thing, it is called tulle. And tulle fabric is basically pre-made mesh. And what the Irish did to it was, rather than the hard graft of making the mesh, yeah, whatever, right? Yeah, tulle as you sew on the prettiness. Now, that could save a lot of time, could it not? So, you know, with all the best will in the world, one is tempted to have a bit of a go because, well, the mesh is already there, you've just got to do the fancy bits. Well, that's... I pronounce stuff phonetically when I have no idea. So, yatched is definitely a thing. No, it's, I have no idea how you're supposed to pronounce it. But yeah, you knew what I meant. Boy, you know, that's all that mattered, let's truly be honest. Because you and I both know that really, when it boils down to it, as long as someone knows what the hell you were talking about, you have succeeded in your conversation. I don't think I pushed down my pins. Hang on. Let me turn it round for a minute. I mean, that was something I very much learnt when I did my German GCSE. I understand. When I did my German GCSE, we obviously had to do a spoken part, and the spoken part boiled down to, you did not have to be fluent, you did not have to do anything, all you had to do was be understood. If you were successful in your endeavours, then you would get a reasonable grade. The more fluent you were, obviously the higher the grade you got. But to pass, all you had to do was maintain the illusion and be understood sufficiently in just German. So you can't go, I don't understand, do you speak English, and then finish the rest of the lesson in English, because, well, that's cheating. But what you can do, of course, is, I have one of these. What is in your bedroom? Ich habe das. I have one of these. I have 6 of these. I don't have one of those. Which was the predominance of my conversation, because I was asked to describe my bedroom. So, but like everything, I was understood. That was the purpose of the point. So, yeah. Liz, in her true usual format, was very much the I am Falcon. Which technicality were you referring to? You know. So yeah, I was I mean, don't get me wrong, I did not get a great result in German, and it was a long time ago. Some 47 years I think it is, but no, it's not quite 47, 37 years or whatever the hell it is, I don't know, lost count. A long time ago. Too long is the short answer. Long enough that I don't remember most of it, but surprisingly enough, remember more than I thought I would, you know. So yeah. You may recall in previous streams I've mentioned and vaguely demonstrated that I have, and I still haven't straightened out this bloody table, have I? That I have a bobbin winder that looks a bit like a speculum. Well, I'm going to have another one soon. I found another one that was really cheap. It's in working order, so that's all that matters. But I've now got another one that if I need to butcher it slightly for some reason, I can do so. Without the whole worry of destroying my only bobbin winder. I mean, to be honest, it's uncommon to be putting a lot. I mean, I'm kind of in there are two schools of bobbin fillers, right? One is the fill them up and then you get to use them until you're done. Or the only put that which you need on bobbin winders, right? And to be honest, I'd love to be the put which you need on. But as I don't know how to work, no one can seem to give you a very accurate answer. Then, well, I put on a load and see how far, and then I never know how much I put on, so I can't tell you how much of it I used, so I can't do better next time. I really need you to be at a different angle. Why are you so annoyingly not at a good angle? Try that. That looks a little bit more. That looks a little bit more level. If anything, it's now pointing slightly that way. There you go. Aha! Now I can level it. Right. There we go. So I'm feeling a bit miserable today because I wasted 9 hours trying to get this thing to work and it just spat in my face all day. Which meant I then didn't move on and do other things because, well, the next time could be the winner, right? Very frustrating. That sounds like a good plan. Are you inkle weaving those? Are you inkle weaving those? Fair enough. That's a good thing. Why is it I always think of random shit that is not the time to be thinking of at the time? You know. It's alright, my brain suddenly asked where the spool of cotton was for the thinner one that we're going to use for the strips. See, that doesn't feel right. But there was. It just doesn't look it. bamboo as a yarn or bamboo as your crochet hook? I wouldn't have thought it should be specifically more awkward. No worse than using cotton. What problems you having? Okay. finest. Ouch, that pin went straight in the hole. Slurpy, slurpy time. one of you smells and it's not me. I know what you mean. I'm a girl who likes everything to be visible. I hate cupboards. I need to be able to see where things are. And if I had like an entire snake's worth of, almost like a conveyor belt doing a big snakey snake thing, so I could like go backwards and forwards and bring things so that they're within grabbing distance, I could live in an underground bunker and have miles of conveyor belt and it wouldn't be enough, right? Every surface I've got is covered, kind of thing. And in various stages of, with the neediest things being closest, the less neediest things being further away. And I find it very difficult to get comfortable. As I mentioned on stream the other day, is that I get to a point where it's like, it's quite common, well, it's not uncommon, it's more accurate, for autistic people to occasionally freak out because they can feel their clothes. I kind of have. I've been going through that a lot the last couple of weeks. And, I mean, we've all had times where, a sleeve that won't stay rolled up is annoying or, something like that. But this isn't that. This is that, something that I've worn 1,000 times is now suddenly not as comfortable as it used to be, even though there's no kind of reason for it. And it's not uncomfortable, because that would be the wrong word for it. It's just that now, I know, it's making me itch, or at least I think it's making me itch, or it's, I don't know, it just feels wrong today. It is not right today. And I had it the other week where my sock literally had me freaking out because it got a slight twist on it. That's all that was wrong with it. It had a minor twist on it. And my whole brain was just like imploding with catastrophic kind of reaction over my sock was marginally twisted. And I do mean like fractionally twisted. Basically, like round one toe, it had slightly moved like this much, and it was like my whole head was going, no, help, no. It's like, brain, it's a sock. I don't need to be tested. I already have. I've already been diagnosed as autistic. I just don't normally suffer quite this level. I have what they used to describe as Asperger's, in that I am a high-functioning autistic, and that I have a high IQ, a low understanding of social cues. I am... when I was a kid, such a word did not exist. And the fact that they've renamed it about 6 times since, there is ADHD, right? Which is but the problem is I think as society we need to be careful as to why we feel we need a label. Now, I don't hide my label, but I also don't feel that it is the most important thing that people know about me. If I think I'm being weird, I will tell them. If I am not sure, so I don't tell everyone who opens, every time I open the door, I don't have a label, I don't have a t-shirt, right? I'm not vegan, I don't have to tell everybody the moment I've met them. But at the same time, if I get that they've got a funny expression on their face or they look kind of, what the fuck is she on about, I will tell them that I have a level of autism. And I think one of the key things of being brought up in my generation was that we were made to learn to try to be more normal. Now, I feel this is a dying thing. Now, to an extent, and I do mean it genuinely, to an extent, I feel that this is not a bad thing. But at the same time, I also feel that it is a bad thing. Ditto. One of the things that I find a struggle is that, for example, allegedly, bear in mind I am not in school nor do I have children, there are now safety rooms where children can go and sit when they don't feel comfortable anymore, and the teachers can't demand that they come out of it. Sorry, what? Children of today have choices as to whether they go to their classes or not. What do you mean they have choices? You fucking went. Or the punishments that would apply to you were unbearable. What do you mean you have a choice, right? And, when it came to exams, despite being dyslexic and not diagnosed while I was at school, I need to point out, even though I was still putting capital letters in words. Well, but you see, this is the problem I have. I have never understood how my co-worker, who throughout his children going to secondary school, so that's kind of 11 to 16. One of my children wouldn't go into class today. She would refuse to get out of the car. What do you mean she had a choice? Not only did we not get taken to school, if by some crook you were marked as absent, hell would rain down on you in biblical proportions from every orifice, from school, from your parents, from everything. Not going wasn't an option. You bloody went. And it's the same as you did your homework or you paid the price. And the price was exceptionally steep. These days, she's not feeling comfortable. And everyone seems to get like a teacher's assistant. They're not teacher's assistants, but they get like helpers in class. To encourage them to concentrate and to have another go. And what do you mean they have people sitting with them? I'm aware of people who have that even now, age 17. They have people come and sit with them in every class to make sure that they're okay. Well, they're not going to get it when they go to work. It just feels... I'm not saying that, you and I maybe had sink or swim, right? And on most occasions, we had an element of... Exactly. There'd be, we'd be a body under a tree somewhere, right? No, I'm not saying that was right. But I do think that, like a lot of things today, we maybe have gone a little too far. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be understanding that not everybody is the same, and that one of my biggest bugbears, and I know you know this, is the you didn't try. Unless you're in my head, you cannot honestly tell me how much effort went into that. Today, I've spent 9 hours itching and swearing and trying my hardest to make something work that allegedly you go here, you click this, you do that, you hit compile, it will all magically work. Well, not for me, it doesn't. when I do that, everything says screw you in and a lot of error messages. But it's supposed to just work. But it doesn't. I can prove that it doesn't. For it doesn't appear on the screen. Well, it does. It's just all black. And that's not much good to me because it's supposed to be, you know, coloured and things. But this is where so much of it seems to be, you know, you can't tell me I haven't tried. Because I have tried. I tried a lot. But to an outside person, well, you obviously didn't follow the instructions. I can assure you now I did. I watched about 5 different videos in case one of them was clicking on something and, you know, in a video that the others didn't. Because quite a lot of these things. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong. Are there times when that is a valid statement? Sure. But the better phrase is, I thought you would have achieved more than that. Or, I thought you would have been more accurate than that. Or you would have had more right answers. Because we all know that you have thick days and brainy days. On the brainy day, you look at it and you know, you kind of look at the cure for cancer and go, oh, well, it's blatantly this. Click. There you go. And on the dumb days, you're trying to work out how to tie a knot in your shoelace because for today, your brain is denying all knowledge of understanding shoelaces. And, you know, there are days when I can't even remember how to spell my own name. It's only got 3 fucking letters in it. It is that kind of problem, right? Is that there is this bit of you that kind of goes, I get it, but it is also really demoralising when you tried, you stayed up late, you put in many bloody hours on it, and it still isn't right, and you know it's not right, but that someone turns around and goes, you didn't try hard enough. Darling, I've been up 5 days straight. I've had like 1 hour's sleep in the last 5 days. Do not be telling me I did not try hard enough on this shit, because you can discover what little shit I do care right here, right now. And I definitely do suffer from that. If you tell me I didn't try and I put all my heart and soul into that, kiss it goodbye. Kiss absolutely any effort from here on out. Goodbye. I'm done. And I did kind of a bit of that work this week. Over the course of 2 days, I clocked up over 20 hours of working on something. And it wasn't even mine to work on. I was doing it because one person wasn't around. 1, 2, hang on. 2, 3, 4, 5. One person wasn't around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That works. And being arguably one of the more brainy people of the group and the most experienced, I decided, by a long way, because, well, I'm older than everybody else, I chose to try and resolve an issue that was well out of my job description. Because those who arguably could have looked into it either wouldn't, couldn't, or otherwise. Did I get a thank you? No. I explained my findings at the end of day 1. I explained my findings at the end of day 2. In proper English terms, not even technical terms. With a bit of technical speech kind of at the end of it. So here's the English bit. Here's a little bit of techie. Right? I got told, oh, well, you need to write it up. Bitch, I just did. Oh, so where are we at with this? Did you read what I literally wrote 2 minutes ago? In the screen that you're now typing this in? No, you did not. Go away. Done. And my manager then, yeah. And my manager asked, can you do this? And I went, no, I'm done. That's why I struggle. Well, I wish I could be signed off working, to be honest. Well, I'm quite fortunate that I work from home, so they don't have to see and I can go on mute and not be heard. But I, there is only so much I can do, and I'm really lucky that I have a co-worker who I can send a message to, and they will translate for me. Because if I've said something and people are just flat ignoring it, usually if they then say it, even though they say exactly what I just said, they will listen. So I get them to say it for me. And I did all the work. My co-worker is going to write it up for me. Problem is they'll get all the credit. And that pisses me off too. Because for day 2, they weren't even part of it. And when I asked them to, oh, I'm going off for coffee with my daughter. Bitch, it's work time. You know. I very much struggle with that in that, I get tired, it's okay for everyone else, and, kudos to you if you can pull it off. But I do get very frustrated with the whole kind of, oh, well, I'm going to go off and do this. Little Johnny has awoken. Yeah, but it's your work day. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I had to go on mute before I yelled at people. I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you, which is such a great phrase, because it's exceptionally true. I can explain it in a million different ways, but what I can't do is understand it for you. And if you're not going to listen, I am wasting my time. And I'm too old. I'd had not enough sleep. I hadn't eaten for the 2 days because I was working on this. And by the time I'd done that and came to streaming, between the two things, I had 0 day left, no food, no nothing. And I think that's a lot of why a lot of my autistic things are at the surface at the moment, because the brain cells that would normally be kind of beating them down with a few sticks broke their sticks on doing other things this week and need new sticks. And I'm not sure where you buy new sticks for brain cells. So, I have sticks. Look, lots of sticks, but sadly they're not brain cell sticks. But you see, and this is where, again, the autistic brain cells really hate me. There are times I don't want to do this. Absolutely. There are times I would rather, set fire to my eyeballs than do this. But at the same time, I want to get to the end of it, and I can't get to the end of it if I don't do it. So I want the end, I don't want to do the middle. I want the end result, but I don't want to have to do it. It's like looking at a really nice garden. Yeah. It's like I'd love a really, really, really nice, pretty garden. But I don't want to do any gardening. I fucking hate it. So I pay a man to do that. Admittedly not a lot, and he doesn't do a huge amount, but he does enough. My garden looks perfectly fine. He is due, but it keeps raining, so he doesn't come when it rains. Hello, Woodcraft by Owen. Hello, Owen. My gardener's a freaking dream. He's cheap. Now, not as in there's something wrong with him cheap, but he does not overcharge. Over the many years that I've lived in Gloucestershire, I've tried a couple of times to find people to do work on my garden, to do a few things that maybe I felt were a little beyond my, either beyond my understanding or that I would screw up. Well, exactly. I mean, I don't know where you are in the world. I'm obviously in England. But if I tell you that at least 20 years ago now, funny you should mention trees. Being a single woman, I do blame that a little for the prices that I get told. So, I remember cutting a bit off a tree. I mean, it was probably 5 meters off the top of a tree, but it was literally chop the top of the tree off. It was literally chainsaw, chop the top off, shove it through a cut. You know, take the bits down the tip. I seem to recall he wanted nearly £400 for that. And it took him 20 fucking minutes. And well, he said it was going to take him all day. 25 minutes later, yeah, I know. A good 20 years ago, we had a guy who is well known in our area, so he is not exactly scam artist of the world. He is well known around here. Yeah. Now this guy allegedly did have a van with gardening services, and so potentially was a little bit more above board than the average. I've turned up with 2 mates who are stupid enough and drunk enough to try it. But we asked a guy to kind of do the pre-winter, yank out all the weeds, trim a few bushes, get it prepped for spring kind of thing in the garden. He wanted nearly £300 for a garden that, frankly, probably wasn't even 10 metres square. He got told to go and jog on for that one. My current gardener... You see, that's far more up my alley. Now, my current gardener is, I think, £14.50 an hour. Prior to this, I went through a friend of a friend, and mates' rates were nearly £35 an hour. This dude, direct, because he used to do work for the previous dude, it's £14.50. Now, funnily enough, when he started doing my garden, he got to be doing the other gardens in the road as well. Now, there's only 3 of us here, so don't get too excited. But he also does my ex-husband. He's got business out of it. And he is basically retired. Although he's not that old. He's only a couple of years older than me. But he is basically retired. And he enjoys gardening. I have every, so it's not like gonna, give up next week, which is always a bonus. I know. And so to be honest, I love the guy to pieces. I really do. I mean, occasionally I make a few jokes because, for example, he was going to come and do some work in my back garden because I've got a patio and plants love growing up through the brickwork and I'm lazy. And I did buy something to do it. I bought one of those like flamethrower weed killer things. But because I'm lazy, I gave it to him so that he could do it. So far he's forgotten twice. But to be honest... I'm not that bothered, because for 40, no offence, I'll wait. I get the impression the man is not poor, and he's doing it because he can. And to give himself a little bit of something to do and keep him out and about. The reason I say that is... barely a few weeks go by and he's off on another surfing holiday, right? So, and they're not round the country surfing holidays, they're abroad surfing holidays. So clearly, so I get the impression that he is not short of cash. If he can afford to go, out and about, there is a bit of that. I mean, I think in a gardener, it's not a bad thing. I mean, I think with gardening, because there are so many demands for gardeners potentially, it doesn't hurt so much. And if you find one you trust, it's worth hanging on to. With, like you say, I mean, for example, with the speed that lace making doesn't go at, right? It would be insulting if, I know this is not a very good example, but let's say this is a placemat. It takes me like a month to make this, right? Well, it would be really insulting if I sold 6 of them for 20 quid, right? Even though the stupid reel of cotton is £9 or whatever, right? And it will make all 6 and some more. No, I know. I have seen those. And more to the point, bear in mind, I can look at what they're doing and know what they're doing. And even I look at their fingers and go, what the fuck? There's one. She's got one of those big bolster pillows, but the kind of half moon ones. So it's kind of rounded like this. And she's got big pile of bombs over here, big pile of bombs over here. And she's doing some shenanigans in the middle. And on my life, all she seems to do is pick up one bobbin and go, and lace falls out. She doesn't seem to move any of the others. She just seems to go. And even though I know exactly what she was doing, even I look at that and go, I mean, my biggest problem with lace making is the pins and the faffing of the bobbins, right? If I could just do like knitting, you know, if you could just go, right? Exactly, that is voodoo. That is scary stuff. And it is kind of bizarre when you watch it, because even when you go, I recognise the bit that she's working on, so I know what stitch that is. So I know how the bobbins need to move to achieve that. Because, I mean, we all know that bobbin making is only cross and twist, right? But when you watch them and your brain's going... I mean, there was one. There was an awful lot of this, but the bobbins didn't seem to move. And that was the bit that confused me. So, I mean, for example, this is my next set of bobbins. I know they're a little off camera. Hang on, let me move slightly. I can't do too much further down. Oh no, that's as far as it wants to go. Let me move this up a bit then. Right. So, she had her bobbins and she was going to do cloth stitch, half stitch through them, which, so for your own aware, is cross and twist. Now, no matter how you achieve that, whether you do it with one hand and you do a bit of this, the reality is still the same. The bobbins have to achieve that movement. And all she seemed to do was go... She didn't seem to pick any up. She just seemed to be spreading them around. But lace happened because the bobbin that needed to... Because in half stitch, if you just do a row of half stitch, this bobbin will travel across these. And these will all end up twisted underneath. But what she seemed to do, I think, was she took this and did the whole under over thing. So she picked up every other bobbin and just kind of took this across. And then went back and did the twists afterwards. But I'm not sure. Because it was so damn fast. I mean, even knowing what I'm looking for, I still couldn't see how she did it. And I do aspire one day to maybe be that fast, but for the normal mortals amongst us, I am of a reasonable speed. I can get a bit of a speed on, I can do pretty well, but even so, my biggest problem is getting the pins, stuffing the pins in the pinhole, especially as I got a poorly paw. You can't really see it there. There you go. Poorly paw. and I can't actually, and my glasses have, if I do, you will be used to, she says, looking for it. It's over here somewhere. I have a bobbin of mankiness. You're used to these. These are Midlands bobbins. Yes, I hate them. Well, actually, I don't hate them. I hate the spangles. So I am making my own spangleless bobbins. That's the one I glued earlier. No, it's not. It's good. So I'm making my own spangleless bobbins, which will be tomorrow's stream. I need to make about 50 more of them. These are not the chunkiest bobbins I've got. I've got some well-fat bobbins. These are Danish bobbins. They are known as Danish mushroom bobbins. The truth of the matter is, to a large extent, the bobbin does not matter at all. All it does is hold your thread and allow you to chuck it around. That is its only real purpose. The rest of it, you know, how it looks and all the rest of it is entirely down to you. Now, there are a couple of exceptions I would add to that. So, for example, I'm on a flat pillow. If you have a bolster pillow, which is the kind of sausage roll kind of shaped ones, or Swiss roll more accurately, because I'm a food person. If you have a Swiss roll shaped one, the bobbins then dangle and the weight of the bobbin is more important. Spangles are generally not used in such scenario. Now, there's no reason you can't, but again, it would be mainly the weight. For the rest part, that's right, I keep hand butting my microphone, it's in the way. For the rest of it, it's personal preference, basically, like everything. It's like, what's the right pair of shoes to wear? Well, realistically, there's quite a few options you can have. I like these, so I'll show you a few more of mine. So I like mine. I think they look rather classy. Ones that I'm making, I think these look quite cool. Let me zoom in on them for you. Hang on. Dunk. So these are the ones that I'm making of mine. I think these look rather spectacular. But they're not dissimilar in size. It could do. I mean, it's entirely up to, entirely up to me. The answer is unlikely. It'll probably be kind of half and half kind of deal. So I'll do about a load of thread there and then have the knot at the top. If I compare it to wherever that middle bobbin went, there it is. They're not dissimilar in size. Oops, you can't see it. Hang on. So they're not dissimilar in size. Just that mine don't have a neck is the short answer. Because it was easier not to make the neck. Because you buy sticks, and to give you an idea, my sticks, she says, digging them out, start life as a stick. To be honest, if I tell you that this little strip here, hang on, let me zoom out. This little strip here takes 84 bobbins. Can you start that? It takes 84 bobbins. When you need to buy a big ass quantity of bobbins, price matters. Now, it's not that I begrudge the price, because I know that if I had to get a lathe and shape them and start off with little square blanks, and because I know how to, I'm the daughter of a carpenter, I know how to. I've done lathe work before, I've made things, I made the bloody banisters and some of the banisters at my dad's house. But the much like lace work, like I was saying, if I charge 20 quid for, say, this square, most people would look at it and go, I'm not paying 20 quid for that, it's not a lot of it. But it's taken me a month. Now, I haven't actually worked out the number of hours, but it is a considerable number of hours. Some of it is due to stopping and talking, I will totally admit. But it is still not a quick thing to do. And as a result of which, you know, if I was to live off the proceedings, I would need to charge quite a bit that I could afford to eat for a month if this was all I was going to do instead. Now, I'm sure if I was doing this as, say I retired, didn't have to go to work, and could do this during the day instead of working, and a bit of the evening, I would like to think it would probably take me a couple of weeks. But still, that's half a month. Are you going to really want to pay half a month's worth of living for a, you know, because I'm not saying it's a skilled art, but it is not exactly a trivial art. You know, it's... Well, and that's the problem. An awful lot of people these days don't want to pay for the skill. They look at something and go, well, I could have done that, then fine, get the fuck on with it yourself and do it. If you really think it's really not that hard, and to be honest, lace making is not ridiculously hard. Hang on, I need to tighten this. This is... There we go. That's a bit better. Lace making, as you know, because I've explained this on many occasions, lace making isn't hard. And that becomes part of it. An awful lot. I mean, I do a number of things. I mean, as you're new to the channel, I would show you, but I've got a big pile of shit on top of it now. Because I've got my lace pillow, and under my lace pillow, if I move this to the side, is a cutting board, and it's the thing under the cutting board I want to show you. But if I show you to the right, well, and if you look here, here's all my stuff for building my bobbins. So I'm not really in a position to unmask it, but I also do weaving, knitting, crochet, spinning, and a whole pile of other things. And a number of my co-workers said, oh, you should give up your job and do this full time. Darling, if I did this full time, I could not afford to live. People are not prepared to pay the price. Now, assuming you are an average sized person, if I was to knit you a jumper and spin the wool to make it, it would take me 2 weeks to spin the wool to make your jumper. It would then take me another 2 weeks to knit the bloody thing, right? That's assuming I'm not dyeing it and doing a whole host of other things to it. Well, do you really want to pay a month's wages for one jumper? No, nobody does. We live in a society where homemade tends to mean badly made for some reason. Actually, they won't. That's actually the sad part. No, they don't. If you go to a farmer and say, can I have fleeces, they actually want 20, 30 quid for that. Because it's the only way they'll get any money for it. No, that's it. They would rather burn it than actually bother to give you a well-cut one. Which is kind of sad, really. Because the problem is, for it to be usable for spinning, it has to be well cut. You can't just have, you know, it's got to have no second cuts in it. It's all got to be, you know, kind of shorn off at the head, right? You can't have fragments. You've got to have the whole length. And as a result, that means the clipper has got to be almost advised in advance that that's what it's wanted for, because they've got to concentrate that bit harder to do the job. And so, of course, they'll want to charge more for that. And it is so frustrating to hear that they burn it. There was... it won't be can't, but it won't be as usable as one if done properly. So the amount, you know, while you buy a dead sheep in a bag, as my ex-husband would call it, so you buy this huge bag with a fleece in it, chances are you're chucking half of it in the bin. And then, of course, the person buying it's got to, so they've then got to pull it apart and check it all, and then they've got to wash it. They've got to, you know, I mean, I actually like spinning in the grease, so, which makes me a bit weird, but that's also fine. It's not the one I wanted. Yes, it is. But it does, you know, it does mean it's not always appropriate. Now, it doesn't mean it's badly done. It just means it's not... It's a bit like if I gave you little chunks of wood, you know, all this size, you won't want to make a table out of it. Commercial does have similar problems, and again, they will have a standard of which they will require the wool to be shorn to for it to be worth them to bother, because you can't use the bit from around the bum. You don't generally use the bit around the head. You've then kind of got the prime bits down the back, sort of like the next usable bits down the sides. Leg stuff's not really worth it, and so, you know, you end up chopping out great chunks of it. Now, obviously, in commercial stuff, they do have... you'd be surprised what you can get away with in terms of how to grade it if you have the right machinery, because it will effectively get rid of the short bits, which are known as seconds. So, if, for example, I've got long hair, right? It's kind of down to my waist. If you put my hair in a ponytail, chopped it, and you've got the big long bit that you can send off for donation, but you then decided to, shave my head, well, all of those little extra bits would count as seconds, right? And when you're shearing a sheep, because it's kind of more matted together, you kind of chop through it and then shear at the bottom. Those top bits all have to come out. And because they are the cleanest, whitest bits of the wool, which is why people don't do that. And then usually you give it the snap test, so you break off the ends because they're dry, crispy and horrible. A bit like human hair, it's kind of got drier and crappier as it's been out there longer. So, you know, by the time you've done all of this, it can be a lot of work. And it's not necessarily not worth it. But it is something that adds to the unjoys of sorting it out. Oops, that's not right. I see a boo-boo. For you are over there. But that's not right because you're not right. Let's undo you. So something went wrong somewhere. So you need that in there. And then that goes there. Now you get in the middle. So yeah, it's one of those sad things that I think, like lots of things, you know, as I say, if I gave you lots of little chunks of wood, yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what they say, because I do know that obviously commercial and hand done is going to have a level of difference, but I do know that certainly from the videos that I've seen that some of them can be very arsey about the wool that they get, and hence an awful lot of farmers don't sell their wool because to get the quality of shear that they need to sell it on isn't worth it. And then of course they have to pay for it to be trucked to where it's going. They have to. And by the time, you know, by the time they've done that and paid for it all, you know, if they're only going to be paid peanuts for it, that it's you know, it's just not profitable. And the spinners amongst us all cry. I was watching a video and they had these sheep and they sheared them, and they were saying, oh, well, you can't spin this wool. Bitch, we spin human hair, dog fur and cat fur. What do you mean can't? Define can't. I mean, frankly, you know, they make yarn from milk fibres. Let's be a little more specific as to what exactly is wrong with your sheep's wool that it is not spinnable in any shape or form. Now, I do understand that perhaps it is not consistent. Part of the joy of sheep wool is the crimp that goes within it. And for those who want to understand crimp, think of the 80s kind of crimp hair thing where you have like the little almost like pinking sheer edges where you put tongs on your hair and you gave it this kind of hideously violent wave. This is crimp. This makes wool very, very spinnable because the crimp within it helps it hold together. But it doesn't mean that you can't spin non-stuff. As I say, people do cat hair for Christ's sake. Well, exactly. I mean, mohair rabbits obviously do have beautiful fur, but we can spin. I honestly swear, you know, if you found the right person, they'd spin mouse fur. I mean, do not be saying it can't be done. It might not be commercially viable. It might be a niche use in that you've got to find someone who's prepared to do it. But saying can't is a bit of a stretch. I mean, Christ, if you can do bloody cat hair, you can do anything. Now, it may be that it works best blended with something else. Yeah, I can't imagine how that would go. If Naughty Kelp was here, he'd be happily killing rats to get their pelts. He'd be up for that. Well, it would have to be said you'd need a heck of a lot of mice to make anything worthwhile. But it is that problem, right? Is that, you know, you have so many of these things where they tell you this can't be done. It may not be worth doing commercially, like you've said, because, you know, and if you can't automate the production of bobbins, and you make them all by hand, it's not going to be very cost effective because no one's, much like I've said, no one's going to want to pay, half a month's wages for a 5 and a bit inch square bit of lace, right? I know that, was it Lady Di's wedding train was handmade lace? But I've got a feeling it was more done the Limerick style than bobbin style. Because, of course, lace is a bit of a bland subject in that it can be knitting, crochet, bobbin, needle lace, tatting, and they all count as lace. Well, yes, and they could impart, obviously the realm is quite capable of affording to put down, 20, 30 people to sit there and make lace all day. I mean, one of the British heritage have raised the fact that lace making is rarely done commercially anymore. That's because none of us fucking wear it. You very rarely see women walking around with lacy bits on their dress these days. Except for wedding dresses. And, well, generally you try and only do that once in a lifetime. So, I mean, I know that obviously there are people who have made, kind of careers at it. And there are people who avoid it altogether. But, again, it's the... if you had a handmade veil, it would get handed down the generations. You don't buy a new one every time. And because it would cost too much. We're not all the Kardashians. We can't afford these things, So I don't know. I do think that, as you say, some of it is, it becomes Exactly. So, I mean, this is part of the reason I'm making a net curtain, right? Is I tried very hard to think of something that I would use. And while making bookmarks is a very wonderful and perfectly good idea, I read my books on a Kindle. I do not wear clothes that would have lace. Fuck, I barely wear women's clothing, let alone, stuff with lace on it. And in fact, if it had lace on it, I almost certainly would never wear it. So, I don't need it for the whole wearing scenario. Well, then you think, well, what's left? As you've said, doilies. Yeah, we don't really do doilies anymore. Tablecloths. Well, yeah, we don't really do tablecloths much these days either. But I don't need tablecloths. I live alone. I don't really have people round, and I don't eat at the table. So, and in fact, my table is kind of over there on its side. Well, actually, it's on its end with its legs in the air. So I don't really use that because it's been like that for at least 2 years now. I don't know what an antimacassar is. I'd have to look that up. Yeah, yeah, not just me then. I made some of those. I didn't know what they were called though. I made some of those out of crochet for my dad because my dad was a big fan of the whole Grecian 2000 shit. No, seriously, I swear he used tubs a day. So, yeah, I didn't know that's what they were called. Well done. I learned something. That's a good thing. Shouldn't you be in bed if you're British? But it is 1 o'clock in the morning after all. But it is one of those things, as you say, the little things that goes over back of chairs. Yes, you could make some of those, but to be honest, lace ones almost aren't, stuff. I mean, this isn't too bad. This is quite dense. The one that Oh, but I'm deliberately streaming so that I can catch some of my more remote friends. But so I've made 8 squares like this already, and to be honest, I'm beginning to really hate them. So in search of alternative options, let me put something down something dark so you can actually see it. Hang on, I have a dark cloth around here, so there it is. No, not that one. I want the dark one. Give me the dark one. There it is. Right. So, here is an option. Now, this is basically the same shit, done in strips. And this is the first strip that I made. And I joined it in a certain manner, and it gave me this bold line. Now, the bold line does have gaps in between it. If I zoom it in and head left a bit, you can see that there is gaps between it. If I do this, you can see there are gaps. But it does give this rather bold appearance, which is not a wrong appearance. And it was at this point I went, you know what, I'm going to like that. It will. But as you can see from this side, I have perfected it a bit more, and now it looks a little bit more in one. So I am converting to making really long strips. So here is 3/4 of my strip. Look, watch this. It's going to start at the top here, and it's going to go all the way down, and it's going to go all the way down, and it's going to and this is 3/4 of it, and then there's another one that pops on the end. Now, the reason this is only 3/4 of one is I only need to do 3/4 to do one of each kind of thing as I might want as my decoration, because as you may have noticed here, there are varying options along the way in the cloth, and I haven't decided which one I like the most. And so I'm going to put them all in one long strip and call it quits. But I'm going to be basically making metre-long strips, 5 of them, and because we've worked out that I only need 5 1/4, so I'm going to try and make the 2 edge ones slightly chubbier to make up for it, so I only have to do 5. And they're going to look somewhat like this, in this kind of style. The snakes are staying. What goes in between the snakes may change and become more regular in uniform. But we have plans, and we're going to be changing to making strips. Because it's a lot easier to do strips, because you don't have to turn the pillow and go around the corner. You just keep going down and down and down, deeper and down. So this is my plan. So I will be changing 2 strips, and so this one is now becoming a half curtain, because, well, it will look like squares sewn together. This curtain will look remarkably like I made it in one piece, and will look better for it. I mean, it will still have the strips, it will still look like strips, but it will look like I did it in one piece. And to be honest, I could ditch the snakes out of lots of it, and then it would look even more like I did it in one piece. But I like the snakes, so we're going to stick with the snakes. Silver of Dragon is doing a pattern with my snakes at the moment, which looks very pretty. He's chosen to do his slightly differently, and I quite like how his work, but I also quite like how mine works, so I'm sticking with that. But we are very much in progress, but this is a lot more light and airy compared to the square that I've got. But this is going to be my neck curtain, so more neck curtain it will be. And I'm really excited to make them. I'll probably get fed up with them, because any repetitiveness, it has an element of annoyance. But knowing now that I need 5, I can do different patterns, and I need to work out what that is. But now I know there's 5, so there'll be 2 more. And obviously my plan is to have maybe a bit of an extra bit down the outsides. I'm not quite sure what I would do, but maybe that will be up. But you see, I've still got to, so I've got a test strip to boil down my candidates of splodges in between the snakes, and then I'm going to have to make one to decide whether or not I, you know, if the gaps between them. Because to be honest, I kind of, part of me says this is a bit busy, part of me doesn't. And bigger, small, bigger, small, bigger, small, or large, medium, more accurately, I think is a thing. Because, you know, I look at this tiny little rose ground that I did just here, and I think if I did one of those here, it would be too small. So I think anything on that size is a bit small. It needs to be bigger, but maybe it can be a bit smaller, maybe it can be a bit bigger. We will have to make some decisions, and I'm not good at decisions, so that will be a challenge. But we've got quite a few optional things that we're going to try. Some will be better than others. Oh, very twitchable. It's for my upstairs curtains, so it very much is for the peering out the front, over the front, because it is at my front, to see what, you know, what's going on. But then my road is as quiet can be. I live in a cul-de-sac. There's 3 houses. My neighbours and I are real antisocial, and the other guy, rich as hell, spends a lot of time at his what can only be defined as a mansion by the sea. It cost him millions, plural. So, you know, good luck to him. Bye. And that's it. Oh, and then there's the old biddy who technically lives next door, but she's arguably from another road, and she owns most of the land, so it's even richer than the last guy. So, it's kind of quiet around here because, well, old lady's 97. So she's not exactly out, you know, holding great parties and barbecues. Yeah, we are utterly... Me and my direct neighbour do not go out, pretty much. The fairly rich guy does go out. He's the most going out dude and has the most visitors. Namely the dog walker, but he does have the most visitors. Me and my neighbour have the Amazon man and the postie man. Not a day goes by when one of us or both of us haven't seen one of them. Yeah, we get on. My neighbours are the best. My neighbours are absolutely the best. Yeah, I love my neighbours. I love my neighbours a lot. So, yes. Anyway, I think, like us, me and my neighbour, he's into computing, and that I think he's just kind of middle management, but, I don't know. I don't know enough about what he does. Yeah, I don't think he's that kind of guy. He might be a bit more of a Dell boy, but I don't think he is. I think, you know, I think he's just managed to make money in what he's doing, really. And good luck to him. It just strikes me as a little odd that, and I mean this with all respect to anybody, if you can afford millions for a house by the sea that you only go to once every month kind of thing, why wouldn't you spend it on the house you live in? You know, the one that you spend the majority of your time in. Surely you would spend... I mean, I don't know about you. I mean, I can slum it for a weekend, right? I mean, I'd sleep in my car, but I like to live in my house. So, you know, if it came down to it, this is the one that I would want to be the nice one, because it's the one I spend the most time in. I mean, obviously you go to wind down into your, you know, in a holiday home kind of thing, but surely to a large extent the one you live in should be the most comfortable because you spend the most time in it. But each their own. Wouldn't be how I'd choose it, but yeah, I mean, that could be a lot of it. It's certainly easy to get on the motorway from here. Christ, you can hear it from here, so, you know, it's, well, I say you can hear it from here. It's true, you can hear it from here. It sounds more like a waterfall, though. You can hear the motorway, but all you really hear is shh. You don't really hear it as a motorway. It doesn't sound like you hear the motorway. So from that point of view, you know, it's certainly close enough to Bristol and Birmingham, you know, just to hop up the M5. So, you know, it's, from that point of view, you know, it's not far to London. It's about an hour and a bit from here. Yeah, you can get, you know, Oxford's close. You know, it's half an hour to 40 minutes. It's, you know. Well, it has to be said, actually, it is kind of amusing. And I'm not going to disagree that I find it funny that since I've lived here, heading down to Bristol on the M5, there's only been a couple of times I can remember doing the journey and not having roadworks. There has been roadworks pretty much, or, you know, in different places, of course, but for the last 25 years, I can only remember, I think, 2 occasions when I don't remember coming across roadworks. It was a shit when I worked in Bristol, that was for sure. But, yeah. I think, you know, like everything though, it is what it is. I think one of the things that always makes it even more disproportionate, thinking back to those, you know, elderly lace makers, is you never see them doing these kinds of stitches where you need like 4 bloody pins And so you do a stitch, a pin, a stitch, a stitch, a pin, a stitch, and then you have the post square stitches that you do to make the corners and start the next ones. And I think that makes it feel very disproportionate in the whole amount of time that it takes to make them, because, well, they're not having to constantly stop and pin things. They do, you know, a big chunk and then put a pin in, because for some stitches that's how it works. So for example, not that I'm going to, but if I'd changed these, instead of be these little square overly things, I'd made it half stitch like we were talking about, that would then be so much quicker, because there'd be a pin at each side and that would be it. They'd fly through if they were that. And I think that's sometimes the bit that makes it so much. You have to compare like for like, and that's not easily done. As I say, I'm not saying I'm anything like as fast as they are, because I'm friggin' not. But at the same time, part of the reason they can be so fast is because they're doing bits that don't need a lot of pins. And they don't seem to spend half their life shortening their bloody bobbins, either. Oh my god, it's Tenchi! Hey Tench, how you doing? Long time no see. Well Tenchi, you find us on our last square, because we're giving up after this one, and because we're going to change to strips. And although we haven't decided on what the strips will look like entirely, this is roughly what they're going to look like. Now I've got 3 here joined together, so they're going to look a bit like this. This one, this is not, this blob is not a winning blob. I like the idea, I really do, but it came out a bit floppy. So we're converting to making strips, and we're going to go for metre long strips. And the next stage of my life, we are planning on, we have printed it out, the next thing that I need to do, which is, it's very long, only 3/4 of the actual length of the final product. I'll probably stop about here because there isn't anything on this bottom bit of the thing. But these are all the contenders for things to try as alternative blobs in between the snakes. So we should be doing that. But to do that, we need 84 bobbins. And I currently only have 32 of these, which I have made. I've been making bobbins and I really like them, but I only have 32. So I need to make, well, 52 more. So I need to make 26 pairs, and I'm going to try and make a load of them tomorrow. So tomorrow's stream will be that. As because you haven't been around for a while, Tage, if you do exclamation mark Discord, my Discord server is now is now mainly in use for notifying when Twitch does not, because Twitch can be a bit pants at notifications. But this is also used for me posting while I'm not doing it, and as well as occasional bitches, flabbergasts, and otherwise postings of general chattiness nature. So you are welcome, of course, to join, as always. But how you been, my friend? It's been very quiet. Wow. It's not that late for you, surely. It's only 1:30 in the morning here. Can't be that late for you. No, fair enough. Fair's enough. Moving is definitely no fun. I've never understood people who move like every 4 years. I mean, you know, occasionally we have to move because we have to move, right? And maybe you need to get away from some crappy neighbours, you know. But every 4 years, that's not. Think of better things to be doing. Especially with the fact that the government takes taxes on it. For those who didn't know, we have to pay, when we buy a house, we have to pay tax on it. In the form of stamp duty. Now, it's not 20%, thank fuck, but it's still a reasonable amount of money. And when you move house, so if you buy, let's say your house costs 200 grand, and you buy a new house costing 200 grand, you don't pay the tax on the difference. You pay the tax on the whole price of the new one. And don't get any rebates for the old one. Which I feel is a little bit stingy. I mean, I moved enough, and you know, to be honest, I'm kind of done with the whole moving thing. I don't really ever want to move again. But I do have a horrible feeling that the old lady will sell the field from behind my house, and they'll build loads of cheap new houses on it, and it'll be full of screaming people, which will be exactly what I didn't want. 90% of the reason I bought this house is because it backs onto a field, and basically it's really quiet. Because, as Tenchi will vouch, my old house was next to a busy road, and it's all I could hear all day, every day, all night, every night. And there were weirder. There was Mr. Haw 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 who lived down the road, who obviously didn't have a job. Don't know whether he was retired or what. To be honest, didn't care. But he'd be up all night, and if it was too hot and you'd left the window open, you'd be asleep and you'd hear Haw 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 Haw, and he would do it basically all fucking night. And it drove me mad. He also tended to kick his dog around the garden, so I didn't like him very much. Yeah. And he was, I mean, maybe he was watching TV in bed and didn't realise that everyone could hear him. But it would just be so... Well, and I think that's the thing is that, I mean, I've always said to people, relationships and moving house, the thing that is causing you to change either of them is the thing that you make sure your new one does not have. So, irrelevant of what it is, it could be it was next to a busy road, it could be it backed onto a school, it could, had a pub that kicked car park next to it or whatever, and you were like, I don't want to live next to it otherwise. So the first thing you look for in your new house is that it has not got the problem of your old house. Sometimes to the point that you will overlook a potential really huge issue just because it's not the current problem you've got. I love this house. I don't have any problems with it whatsoever. I'd love for it to have a basement, but we generally have them here. So I would love a basement if that was possible. But I do, my solicitor, when I bought this place, was absolutely adamant that this was a stupid purchase. Just because he was stupid. He was a stupid dude. In 2007, virtually everyone in the UK will remember that Gloucestershire flooded rather a lot. We made the news. We made global news because it had flooded quite so much. As a result of the 2007 flooding, lots of places now have problems getting insurance because it flooded. Well, round here, arguably flooded. But that was while these houses were being built. So these houses have not flooded. They might have done if they'd been built, but they were built kind of after the flood. And due to the flooding occurring either pre or during build, they put in quite a lot of large drains, etc. And my estate and my solicitor wrote to me about how bad this house was, how there's no drainage, how there's no this, how there's no that. And so I drove down here. If I tell you that most adults would fit down the drain holes here, they are like 2 foot wide, square drains. They're huge. They're not the little kind of this size drains that you can get. They're huge, right? They're huge. You really could get people in them, right? And there's about 5 in the road, okay? Given that the road is not even 100 metres long, right? There's a lot of drainage here. And he was like, there's not even any drainage. No, so I took a picture of each and every manhole and sent it to him. What, like this one, or this one, or this one, or this one? There is something arguably wrong with the house. It's just something that doesn't bother me, which is that in the UK, every plug socket must have a control switch. One in my hallway doesn't, and apparently you're not allowed to sell houses without one. Except for the fact that mine doesn't, and the guy who did the electric check, even though he came in the house and supposedly did all the checks, didn't notice. One thing I do love about this house, which most people would hate, is it's got split level heating. So there's a heating circuit for upstairs and a heating circuit for downstairs. And to lots of people, this is really confusing. Except that's what I grew up with. Well, I say grew up with. When we finally got indoor heating, and I mean that genuinely, because when we moved to London, we finally had a house with heating. Well, it had been split into 2 flats, so it had upstairs and downstairs. 1, 2, 3, 5. So this is what I'm used to. I'm used to having a control system for upstairs and a control system for downstairs. Well, it meant that when I moved in, everyone was going, oh, it's got really complicated heating. And I went, oh, thank fuck for that. And the estate agent looked at me like a grown ahead. And it was like, well, this is what I'm used to. It makes no sense to me that if you're downstairs all day and it's cold because it's winter, that you'd heat upstairs when you're not upstairs. Why would you do that? You heat downstairs because you're downstairs. And he looked at me and he went, but no one understands this. And I was like, I do. It's exactly what I grew up with. So, but when I moved in, I did discover that the sensors were wrong. Even though it was as set up when they made it, the sensors were the wrong way around. So the downstairs sensors were controlling upstairs and the upstairs sensors were controlling downstairs. So when I got it changed for a heating system that I can control through bitch face, because, well, why not? I put them around the right way, and it's surprisingly so much better now. But yeah, I mean, I can tell bitch face to turn the heating on. I can tell her to put the hot water on. I can tell her to turn it off. But it also meant if I go out, I can tell her to stop it. And if I'm coming home, I can tell her to turn it on. And it'll be nice and warm by the time I get home. It's, you know, I can, and if I'm cold, I can, without having to get up and find the thermostat and do all of those kind of things, I can just yell, make it hotter kind of thing, and it will. It's a great and glorious thing, right? So I don't know. I you know, there was, you know, I've made a few changes, obviously. But it is kind of, I tried to do it in my old house. I was very good with my old house. I spent ages programming the thermostat so that, you know, between this air and I got the thermostat changed in my old house as well. I changed that. I changed it, not the plumber. I asked him about it, and he kind of went, yeah, it's doable, but, you know, it cost a fortune, because. So I ordered all the bits off the internet, and plugged it all in myself and set it all up. And it really wasn't half as complicated as he said, so, and it still works today, so the battery will run out at some point, but I should probably check on that at some point. But yeah, I've done a few minor things in terms of making changes to the house, but I like the house the way it was. Hell, the couch I'm sitting on wasn't my property. It came with the house. I asked them if they could leave it, and they asked if I could buy it, and they left it for me, so they didn't even make me pay for it. I love this couch. This cushion's getting particularly thin, but then I've been sitting on it for pretty much 5 years straight, so. But yes, it is, been a while. I still can't believe I've been here 6 years. Strikes me as kind of scary. Well, even more scary when you think that the pups will be 5 this month. That's even more scary. I know. Well, I don't think the 6 years here scares me half as much as the fact that these dogs are 5 years old. That does seem like 2 minutes. They do. No. 5 years. She died August the 1st, 2020. Purple squirrel. I'd have to look up when I got Fiona. It wouldn't be that hard to find out. It'll be on my phone. Because I took photos. So hang on. So, see if I can do a quick find of photo of Fiona. Pets, Fiona. There she is. That was the day I met her. I got Fiona the 15th May 2016. And that's Fiona. Here she is. Little Miss Purple Squirrel. Do you know? Oh, there's a picture. It's not a great picture of her, but there she is with her purple squirrel. Having a snooze with Purple Squirrel. I was about to say I don't have any pictures of her with the damn Purple Squirrel. Which... Well, there's Purple Squirrel when he had landed in something he shouldn't have. We all know what he shouldn't have looking at the picture. She was a funny old thing. There's pictures of my house when it was tidy. There's one with Purple Squirrel. Another one with Purple Squirrel. Snoozing and Purple Squirrel. She was a good girl. And that was the day before she died. She looks alright there. It's hard to tell. But basically her whole pelvis was covered in a tumour. And she was struggling to walk. And the joy had gone. Still loved her though. The problem was her brain was a lot better than the rest of her. Charlie had the same problem. His brain was still good, the rest of him was not so good. But it was very clear when we got up on the 1st of August that she didn't have another week left, like they said. So we unfortunately had to do the last drive, which was very disappointing. But yeah, she was a good girl. Even if I did want to shove that Purple Squirrel up her butt. Now, this is not 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How come I've got an extra pair? Must have miscounted somewhere. So, you go in there. This looks like you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Well, I'm about to log 2020, don't feel too bad. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to make bobbins tomorrow, I think. Because I've got to make 52 of the buggers, so better get on with it, really. But, there we go. I finished this little chunk. one of the advantages of doing strip is there isn't quite the same level of chunk, so it's much easier to go until you're done. Take care, Tench. So I shall take a fettage of this, because that's the done thing. There we go. Get a bit more there. Right. So now it is time to excuse myself to go to sleepage. Well, by the time I've started uploads and all of that, it'll be nearer 3 o'clock. Because it inevitably is, for some reason. But hey, naughty out. So yes, making bobbins I think tomorrow. That seems to be a good plan. Make some bobbins so that we can start the strip to help with some decisions, because otherwise we're going to run out of time. Now, the shed doesn't really matter which way round we do it after all, but I always feel better knowing what I'm going to be doing next. So we shall definitely work on making more of these. For we need more of these. We need at least 26 more pairs. I.e., we don't even have half yet. Oops. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love them. It's just kind of scary that this isn't even half. To make such a small strip. But we've pre-coloured some in after all. So we've got sticks. And we've got more sticks. So we will spend a while. I mean, I know I end up doing an awful lot of it as far as you're concerned off camera. But by the way, I have varnished all of these now, so these ones are all varnished up. These are all good to go, as the phrase goes. But yeah, I've got 32 of them. I just need now to make a shit ton more, really. Sponge. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19. Well, I know that these really are a little bit small, but considering that the size of the thing that I got, they actually do work really well. So it lets me put a really nice thin layer of it says varnish, but then it also says it's pure polyurethane, so it's not really varnish, but it is quite good stuff. It seems to leave it doesn't leave much of a feel to it. It has a bit of a feel to it, so if I fill one of these and then fill one of these, there is a definite difference, but it's not a unpleasant feeling. And I know my dad's shouting from his box in the other room about how dare I use varnish, but it's such a thin layer. Bite me, dear father, bite me. I've got to live with them, you don't, so yeah, I mean, as I say, I really like how they look. I know this is the one that I stained, but this one feels quite different to the others. That one's a bit rough, but the rest all feel very smooth and, well, not ridiculously smooth. They feel wood, but They feel smooth. This one's a bit rough. Some of the wood sticks were rougher, and I probably should have highly polished them a bit first. This feels odd, and this is why this one looks a bit different, is this was the stain. So this is more of the emergency brake glass bobbin, I think. Which is why there's one extra here to replace it potentially. I've got plenty of beads. I've got an absolute shit ton of sticks. No, I have got 240 sticks, so I've got plenty of sticks. I've got plenty of these. I've got plenty of all of the beads. I technically should have enough beads to make 200 in the long run, but obviously I need 84 to make. I think it was 84. It was 84 or 82. I'll make 84. Pretty sure it was 84. 84 pairs of bobbins. Hang on. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 22, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 42. Yeah, 84. 84 bobbins, so I need 52 more, really. And that's only 19, so but it's not like they take a long time. It's just a case of, like everything, sitting down, doing it, but and getting a bit of a production line going. So obviously I've got to colour some more sticks. I've got plenty of beads to glue on, you know, and then of course varnish them at the end of it. So these little sponge things do tend to rub off. The sponge tends to break down, and the moment they start breaking down I need to replace it for a new one, because obviously I don't want bits of sponge in it. But yeah, I really like how they look, and I think that by the time you wind a bunch of white thread on it, they do look pretty damn cool. I know this is a bigger one because, as you can tell, these are all slightly shorter than these, but I've also got plenty of these I can make. They do, and to be honest, you know, I deliberately went with the slightly shorter ones once I'd done these two, because obviously I've got two longer ones, and I could use these as worker pairs or something. There's nothing wrong with these. Well, they are, but as I said, they kind of remind me of my dad's walking stick. So I could also make longer ones, but I quite like, you know, these are quite good in the sense that they're hand-sized. Don't think they fit so well in my bobbin winder, which is why I might have to doctor it, hence getting a second one, because if I have to doctor it and put a bit of padding on it so that they don't damage or whatever in the bobbin winder, because it's wood on wood and would scratch at it, well, I've got a second one, so I will have a second one, so I can do that to one of them and, you know, put a bit of padding on it or such so that it can grip it without being too much of a problem. I am really looking forward to the strips, just as I'm really looking forward to seeing these squares made into a curtain. I'm just a little bit fed up of making triangles, because we are on triangle 34 after all. We only need 5 strips, so that's a good thing. 5 meters of lace. It's really not that much. But I do need to make a wider strip, so I'll have to have 2 strips, but one's going to be wider, so that, and I'll have to make one upside down, which means they'll have to be symmetrical, which is what I wanted anyway. But the idea of making it upside down is so that one will have a fat bit to the side and one will have the fat bit to the other side. Yeah, I mean, 5 meters of lace actually doesn't sound that bad, does it? Really doesn't. And, you know, if you think of how much I made here, I mean, I know it's only 3 strips of, but if we find where the hell my tape measure went. Now, obviously, these are only little bits rather than metre long bits, but if I measure how long they are. Okay, so these are 16 centimetres long. So that's nearly half of one strip. And this took not that long. So if you think about it, if that's half of one strip and that took 3 weeks, 18 weeks, it's only 3 months, isn't it? Well, it's taken a lot longer to do these squares. Can't be right, but it sounds... I mean, obviously I did do some of these off stream, so it is a little bit unfair to kind of class them together, but I don't know, it just seems... I think part of the difference is there isn't a block. You don't do blocks in this, you just kind of pick a bit and do a bit, and so you don't then have the change of brain thoughts. You just kind of keep going and then kind of go. And then, of course, because of the big spiders and things that we were doing, you do a spider and suddenly you've gone from up here to down here, and, you know, it does move quite fast. So I am interested to see what the test subjects for the test strip will achieve and how much we like them. She says quickly looking at what options we did pick, because obviously we've got a number of options here. So there are other options here. So these are options we didn't really do here. So we shall see. We shall see. There's a couple in, there's at least one in here I'm pretty sure is an instant fail. But we will, well, find out when we get through this strip. So yeah, it won't be a quick strip, that's for sure, or at least I doubt it will be a quick strip, but I'm really looking forward to this because this is a lot more light and airy and curtainy in my mind as well, which I think helps. But I am looking forward to it. I've got my extra big bias tape to go around the top, so I'll fold it in half and then I can put my rod through it, and sew the net curtain inside it for safety. Yeah, I'm kind of really looking forward to it all, so we shall see. We shall see. Naughty Cat, I don't know if you saw earlier, but I bought this, which is very hard to tell what it is, but it looks like a badly packed squash t-shirt. If you look very carefully here, you can see that it's actually transparent. Basically, it's a large amount of mesh fabric, and you sew along it. So rather than bobbin lacing the mesh, you only actually sew and make pattern where you want pattern. This is called limerick lace. I might have to have a go a bit of that, but obviously need to be careful because, you know, it's not expensive shit, I need to point that out. But, you know, need to think about that because I am no artist, so that does very much limit the decorations that can go upon it. But yes, we shall see. We shall see. Anyway, I shall see you tomorrow, probably round about 12 hours time or so. Maybe 13 or 14, depending on when I actually wake up, because I will be hungry by then. And we shall make bobbins, I think, tomorrow. we will try and grow this pile with all of them and some friends. That's all right. I know what it's like. I'm not going to pretend I haven't fallen asleep today. So you know, I'm not going to judge you for it. You should know that. But yes, if you go on YouTube and look for limerick lace, you'll see a bit more of what I mean. I'm not going to pretend I'm going to be any good at it because I can't draw for shit. So that does really limit kind of the output. But the principle's good. The principle's nice. And in my mind, I could do all these great and glorious things. In practice, probably not. But basically, you embroider on the. It is more of an embroidery onto the mesh, and make lace with it. Yeah, very much. And I think, to be honest, that's how it's more of how an awful lot of the handmade wedding veils and trains and things are made. Which, you know, I'm not against, really not. But I thought I might have a bit of a go at some point. Because, you know, well, why not? Everything's worth a try once, right? Anyway, I shall see you tomorrow. I thank you for your attendance today, and I hope that you can join me. As a reminder, !Discord. Joining that, we'll get a Discord notification when the stream goes live, and my excuses as to why not when I don't. And that fly's back. The fly's still picking on me, Nautical. But yes, I shall see you tomorrow for bobbin making. Take care, everybody. Good night.